Welcome back to OG's Danger Show. Back, original gangsters. OG out here with you today at the Tauflader site. I'm waiting on Jeff to finish up a little penetrator video. I've been wanting to do a video for some time on a basic old home defense shotgun. How to set it up, how to store it, how to load it, and maybe even a couple of test rounds downrange to see just how it prints. If you're a new shotgun owner, you want to load it with the type of ammunition that you bought for your shotgun and then head out to the range and see how that ammunition prints on target. Every shotgun, doesn't matter if it's identical to the one next to it on the rack at the gun store, every shotgun's going to pattern a little bit differently with all different rounds. And you want to know where those rounds are going to pattern before you use your shotgun in a close quarters or home defense type situation. I have set up here for you today some cardboard targets at 5, 10, 15, and 25 yards to see what my shotgun, my home defense shotgun, is going to do at those distances with not only standard double-aught buckshot, but also with my favorite, the Federal Flight Control. It's what I use at work, it's what I use at home, and I really like the tight patterning of that round. So I'm going to do a little demonstration out here today to show you the difference in standard double-aught buckshot, which is perfectly adequate in every home defense scenario, and the Federal Flight Control, which gives you a tighter group. And for those of you who are saying, well, OG, if I wanted a tighter group, I'm just going to use a rifle. Negative. There is a big difference between a load of double-aught buckshot going downrange and a rifle bullet. Yes, I feel perfectly adequate defending myself with a rifle. However, I want buckshot, and I want buckshot in a tight group. I want it to be controllable. There's a big myth out there that as long as you have a shotgun, you just have to point it in the general direction of the bad guy and pull the trigger. It's going to spray and fill your living room with a deadly swarm of double-aught buck that's going to kill all bad guys in the neighborhood. That's not exactly true. You definitely have to aim a shotgun. I'm going to show you a little bit about that today. There's a reason why my shotgun is set up with a peep rear sight and a rifle front sight. A standard shotgun with a bead sight, as it comes from the store in most cases, is perfectly adequate for most home defense scenarios. But I want my shotgun, especially if I'm going to be using slugs, to have a little bit better sights on it so I can get out there. And don't believe the myth of just pointing a shotgun in the general direction of the bad guy and pulling the trigger and he's just going to fall down dead. Doesn't work that way. You're going to see here at 25 yards, at 5 yards, how important it is for you to aim your shotgun every single time, just like you would a rifle. So first thing I want to do is take you through the parts of this shotgun. I'm a big believer, just like those of you who watched my simple rifle for troubled times. This is my simple shotgun for troubled times. I don't like a lot of gizmos on mine. I don't like a lot of switching chambers and rotating cylinders and all kinds of goofy stuff. I like a pump action shotgun. I have owned automatic shotguns in the past, and while they're pretty badass, they can be finicky with different types of ammunition. And I'd rather not have to worry about that when I need a shotgun. If I need to throw birdshot in there because it's all I've got, I throw it into an automatic shotgun. There's often times that an automatic shotgun is not going to cycle with that lower powered round. So I personally, prefer a pump action shotgun. If you don't like my choice of a pump action shotgun, I don't care. This is the shotgun that defends the OG household primarily. Let me show you its features. So this is a shotgun I bought several years ago. I'm estimating about 14 to 15 years ago. This shotgun at the time was a little over $900 from Scattergun Technologies. It was way out of my price range at that time. I sold quite a few things to be able to get my hands on this shotgun because I am such a big believer in a 12 gauge shotgun for home defense. I sold off a couple of Mossberg shotguns. My department uses Remington shotguns, and as you probably know, Mossberg and Remington use different action bars down below. They use different safety system. So I wanted to have a standardized system with the things I used at work. I train all day, every day on a Remington 870 shotgun at work. I train other police officers on the Remington 870 shotgun. I know how to run that shotgun in the dark, just by touch, just by feel. I can load it, unload it, operate it, and take it apart, all in the dark. So I wanted my home defense shotgun to be very similar to the one that I use at work. There's a couple little enhancements on this that I'm not allowed to put on my shotgun at work. I'll show you those differences in just a second. This is a Scattergun Technologies Remington 870 12 gauge. This shotgun started its life as a standard old Remington 870 Express Magnum. That steel receiver instead of a lightweight aluminum receiver. Polymer trigger guard instead of a steel trigger guard. But this was bought from Scattergun Technologies approximately 14 or 15 years ago when they were an independent company before they were bought out by Wilson Combat. Wilson Combat still makes the exact same shotgun for you, and they call this one their standard model with a couple of enhancements. They call it their Border Patrol model. I've kind of modified this to be right in the middle. I really like these shotguns. If you like them too, they're a little more pricey now. They are certainly well worth it, and you can still get them from Wilson Combat. I like the fact that this one's got Scattergun Technologies, Barrowville, Arkansas written right on the side of it. It is one of the smoothest action shotguns I've ever had in my life. Buttery smooth action right there. And of course, 15 years of using this thing, a lot, has made it even smoother. I ordered this shotgun in OD green. Actually, I guess it's OG green. See what I did there? It came to me pretty much as you see here. It came with a standard forend right here. Mrs. OG, quite a few years ago for Christmas, got me this Surefire. This is the old style. I don't even know the model number on this thing. This is the old style Surefire forend that has an incandescent light. Kids, for those of you who are unfamiliar with incandescent lights, right after the flaming torch, we had light bulbs that got hot and were kind of a yellowish light, not nearly as bright as your LEDs. This is one of those. I have tested it out in my house, and at all of the ranges in my house, this light is plenty adequate. So I don't, at this time, want to swap it out for some bright aircraft level illumination that's going to burn a hole in my walls as I light it up at night. One of the things you got to keep in mind when you use any light and a firearm in your dark house in the middle of the night is too much light can actually blind you and kind of wash out everything you're looking at when searching your home. So having a light that just illuminates your living room, hallway, bedroom, that kind of thing, that's what you need. Actually, lower lumens than some of these super laser lightsabers that you buy nowadays with 1800 lumens. Those things are great for out in the yard or out in the desert, but searching your own home, you're just going to end up bouncing that stuff off the walls and kind of blinding yourself. So I like a little bit lower powered light. This model, when it came from Scattergun Technologies, did not have any way of mounting ammunition on board the shotgun. One of the drawbacks to having any shotgun is it's a low capacity weapon. Now, we can go all day long and fight about capacity in firearms, but when it comes to a 12 gauge, I'm not worried about having a 30 round magazine like I would on an AR-15. This type of weapon, first of all, with the proper training, can be reloaded while in use, and second of all, doesn't often require, in most scenarios, a whole stack of ammunition on here to get the job done. This gun in its current form is just about perfect for most social situations. I at one point mounted a leather butt cuff on here like we have on our work shotguns. The leather butt cuff in my experience with the work shotguns, they tend to get loose and floppy over the years, and they end up dumping your rounds on the ground as soon as you need them. So not a big fan of those. They also tend to get in the way of your cheek weld when you try and mount this shotgun. So what I have done instead on this, I've mounted one of these. I believe they're from SKD Tactical, little shotgun cards. They rip right off. A nice heavy duty piece of Velcro mounts it to your shotgun, to the receiver. This thing's been on there for probably about 10 years or more. And I've had these elastic mounted 12 gauge rounds mounted on that shotgun for the same amount of time, probably about 10 years. Surprisingly, these elastic loops have never gotten loose and floppy and tired out. So whatever they were doing over there, they did them right. I like these shotgun cards because these things can be pulled out, slapped onto your gun, and you're ready to rock and roll. You run this thing out, rip them off. You keep another one on your vest, rip it off, slap it on there. If you find yourself in a situation where you're only going to need slugs and you're properly prepared and equipped, you can reach down, rip this off and throw it away, grab the one that's loaded with 12 gauge slugs, slap it on your shotgun, you're good to go. You could even mount a second one over here on the buttstock if you chose to do that. So I like these detachable elastic and Velcro shotgun cards, and I have not found that they wear out like one would think with Velcro and elastic. One of the most popular methods of mounting extra ammunition on board a shotgun is with a polymer or aluminum shotgun side saddle. Here's a problem with them though. Hard mounted side saddles that bolt through the receiver of your 12 gauge, you can see over here on this side those receiver bolts. Well, if you buy one of those hard mounted either polymer or aluminum side saddles, they replace those bolts, and you've got steel bolts now going through the receiver that extend out just a little bit further so that they can hold onto that side saddle. I have seen firsthand those shell holders after a lot of years, especially if you have a aluminum receiver. Those steel pins in that aluminum receiver under this intense recoil tend to start rocking back and forth. And after quite a long time, after years of use, you're going to find out that those steel pins have now gouged out over time a small oval hole inside of your receiver pins, and now everything's going to be loose forevermore. There is no way to go back and correct that. So you've essentially got an aluminum receiver that has been kind of worn out to the point where it's not going to hold any receiver pins anymore. So I personally, not a fan of those. If you have one on your shotgun, good on you. I wouldn't worry about it so much if you've got a steel receiver like this, but most shotguns nowadays, especially all the Turkish ones, a lot of Mossbergs, even some of the Remingtons are coming out with an aluminum receiver. My personal preference is to stay away from putting steel pins through an aluminum receiver if you're going to mount that side saddle on your shotgun. One guy's opinion only, you don't have to like it. While most 12 gauge shotguns come straight out of the rack at Walmart or Big 5 with bead sights for bird hunting, a good social shotgun like this probably needs a little bit more enhanced sights. And whether or not you get rifle sights or something like this one came from Scattergun Technologies with this lovely little peep sight. Try to move it up here real close so you can see it. It's got a little ghost ring sight on the back. It's a very sturdy little steel sight. It is in no way flimsy. It doesn't need to be protected by any kind of ears like on my Tauflader shotgun that came from Turkey. This thing is a very rugged little sight. You can kind of bash it around, and I have for quite a few years, and the thing is still holding up. It's never going to be knocked out of zero. It's very easy to adjust with a simple Allen wrench. You can also slide it up and down on that little ramp right there if you needed some kind of elevation change, which on a 12 gauge you probably don't. That rear sight pairs nicely with this rifle style front sight. This version that comes from Scattergun Technologies has a little tritium insert in there. I checked just the other day, and even after owning this thing for about 15 years, that tritium insert's still glowing nice and bright. I don't expect that's going to last much longer, but we'll see over time. Hey, Jeff's here. Scattergun Technologies also added on this nice heavy-duty steel magazine extension. So I've got a total of 8 rounds on board this shotgun, so I feel pretty good about that. Another great feature of these shotguns is you can take this smooth bore here, and for a couple $100 you can snap on a rifled barrel and get a lot different ballistics for things that maybe you want to use this shotgun for hunting or just sending different types of slugs downrange. I recently picked up this Remington factory barrel, rifled barrel, primarily so I could throw it in this shotgun, not for hunting or anything like that, but so that I could use this shotgun for different rifled slugs on a Taufledermaus. So nice little rifled barrel with some dot front sight and some kind of a triangle rear sight there. Anyway, let me back up here. I'm going to swap this barrel out because Jeff's here, and we're going to shoot some penetrator slugs. We need a fully rifled barrel to do that. Okay, we're back from shooting that Taufledermaus video. Hey, I wanted to real quickly kind of mention to you, since there's probably a lot of new shotgun owners that are going to be watching this, wanted to recommend a certain way of storing this shotgun. How I store shotguns at home, and how it's pretty much just the safest way. We call it cruiser ready. It's the way we store our shotguns in the patrol car when they are locked into our patrol cars. Cruiser ready basically means that the action right there is empty of all shells. The action goes home, the bolt goes home. It is empty right now, and I can always double check on a shotgun that it's empty by activating this tiny little action release bar right there. On a Remington, it's right there. On a Mossberg, it's back here behind the trigger guard. I'm going to activate that. I want to just pull it back a little bit, do a chamber check, in this case to make sure that it's empty. I want to close it, and at this time I'm going to point it in a safe location, and I'm going to pull the trigger and get a click. This is called cruiser ready right now. Magazine is full of ammunition. The chamber is empty. I have dropped the hammer. I don't want that hammer held back under spring pressure for long periods of time. I also don't want that hammer held back in a patrol car. One of the reasons we call it cruiser ready. I certainly don't want a round waiting in there pointing up at my ceiling, shaking around in a patrol car. These are not the most drop safe of weapons. Even though they have a safety on here, the safety just blocks the trigger from activating. It doesn't actually stop the firing pin like on a lot of pistols. And you all saw me in my OG rants talking about carrying on an empty chamber. This is completely different. Storing it in my patrol car, empty chamber, full magazine down here. So I got 8 rounds waiting to go, and I got 6 more. I got room for 7, but I got 6 more on board ready to go. I'm going to lock this in my patrol car, trigger depressed, trigger already fired, and safety off. That's right, off. I don't want to activate my safety, and I'll show you why. Locked into my patrol car. I hit a magic set of buttons, and all of a sudden this shotgun is now released and into my hands. I come out into a felony stop or some other kind of situation. All I have to do on exiting that patrol car is take the action of this shotgun and load it. Of course, I didn't have any rounds right there, so I didn't actually load a round, but all I have to think about is coming out of that patrol car and racking around. I have seen over and over and over and over again running range for police officers, and we're people that practice shotguns all the time. If you activate the safety on a shotgun, when you come out of the patrol car under stress and you try to get that shotgun up and you pull the trigger, that safety is going to be on, guaranteed. If you haven't pulled the trigger on that shotgun and you pull that shotgun out of the patrol car, you're going to try and rack around, and it's going to be all locked up until you can find that little button. And under stress, who wants to be searching around for that dinky little action release bar? Not me. So once again, chamber empty, magazine full. I want to rack the action, essentially cocking the action. I want to take a glance in here and make sure that the action is completely empty. I wanted to point it in a safe direction, and I want to pull the trigger. Gun has just technically gone off. Magazine is full, chamber is empty, safety is off. Now if I set this in my closet, in the middle of the night, I hear a bump in the night, all I have to do is grab this shotgun out of the closet, pick it up, rack, and I'm ready to go. So that, folks, is what we call cruiser ready. Safest way to store a shotgun. Don't worry about the fact that in the middle of the night you're going to be clacking the shotgun. First of all, don't believe the internet myth that just the sound of a shotgun is going to drive bad guys away. That's not something that's very true in my experience. It's also not something that you want to rely on. Just making noise isn't necessarily going to drive bad guys away if they're determined. I've also dealt with a lot of bad guys that are high or just flat out so crazy that some kind of noise like that, they might not even know what this sound is. And you don't want to rely on that to drive bad guys away. You want to rely on this to drive bad guys away if they continue into your house and are threatening you and your family. I'm going to start with some test rounds down range. If you guys can see my bad guys there. I've got bad guys set up at 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, and 25 yards. I'm going to shoot them with some birdshot rounds from those distances. Then I'm going to come in with some regular buckshot rounds so that you can see what standard old double-aught buck does. And then we're going to shoot them with some federal flight control. And I'm going to show you some pretty impressive results clear out to 25 yards. The average living room distance for most of us is right about that 10-yard target out there. And so we want to see what this will do. Another thing I recommend you do is pace off, measure off, whatever you need to do, the furthest distance in your house. For me, it's rounding the corner from my bedroom, clear across the dining room, front room to the front door. And I'm just a little over 10 yards. So I've got a 10-yard target out here, and I want to see what a round will do across that distance. Would it be safe for shooting across that distance and trying to engage a bad guy? I don't know. Let's take a look. Birdshot first, 5, 10, 15, and 25 yards, and then we'll get around to some double-aught buck. Okay, birdshot out of an 18-inch barrel onto a target 5 yards away. All right, what appears to be pretty impressive damage, but it's only 5 yards away. Got a lot of spread here, about the size of my hand, about the size of a salad plate. This is from the wad, we don't count that. The mass of the projectiles went through this little core area here. This is probably going to stop a bad guy, but I'm only 5 yards away. Let's give it a try at 10. Okay, so if you've got a bad guy who's got any common sense and he's not really all that determined, this is probably going to hurt an awful lot, and it's probably going to drive him away. It is not very likely to stop him, to actually stop a determined attacker. Picture a guy coming in your front door with a machete or with a gun trying to hurt your kids and wife and family. This is not going to stop a determined attacker. Not going to stop him quickly, at least. It's going to eventually make him leak, but he's still got a lot of fight left in him. There's really no point at shooting this target at 15 yards. Our pattern's only going to be wider than this at 15 yards and even more spaced out. So I'm going to move over to some double-aught buckshot. All right, standard Winchester Ranger 9-pellet double-aught buckshot. Basic old stuff. Let's chamber load one in this shotgun. Close it up, give it a try at 5 yards. All right, 5 yards, high center chest. This, folks, is going to stop a fool. This just hit all of his vitals with all 9 pellets. It's very similar to being hit with 9mm rounds, all at the exact same time, but flying even faster than a 9mm. What just happened? Let's try 10 yards, standard double-aught buckshot. Pretty impressive. All hits right there in the vitals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can see all 9 pellets all the way from his lower throat area down to the sternum area. All very, very deadly shots. All right, and you can see up there too, Slug went through, or the wad went through near his ear, gave him a little ear ring. 15 yards. Standard double-aught buckshot, 15 yards. All right, I'm liking that. Most of those rounds are pretty deadly. We had a flyer out here in the arm, shoulder blade area, and then one passed right over his shoulder. This one could be a liability downrange if it flies past and was to ever go near one of your family members, or if you're out on the street, you know, bystander in the background. So that's not, I'm not crazy about that. That tells me 15 yards is probably the maximum distance I want to give on this shotgun. Obviously, I could have held a little lower and put them all right here in the meat. I'm going to go ahead and put a round of that standard double-aught buckshot on our 25-yard target downrange here, and let's see what it does. So you can see here why I might not be completely impressed with a 25-yard shot with standard double-aught buckshot. 3 rounds went over his shoulder. Every one of those rounds we're accountable for. Did they hit our family? Did they fly through the walls and hit the neighbor's house? Do I live in an apartment? They're going to pass right on through and take out my stoner neighbor who's asleep on his couch. I don't know. Either way, it's 25 yards. The standard double-aught buck is a little bit too far away. 4 total shots on target, 5 missed him. And I've got a spread of about 18 inches. Not really all that good, 25 yards. Now it's time for the real magic. I want to try some federal flight control at those same distances at the exact same targets so that you can see a comparison right there, old round versus new round. Watch how this stuff groups. Since this is going to be no problem at all for the federal flight control, I'm going to put them in the headshots. I'm pretty confident I can do it. 5 yards, federal flight control. Well, that was easy. Even though I pulled the shot off to the right, you can see all 9 pellets. Tight little cluster. Look at the difference. Fist-sized group from the standard double-aught buck, which is excellent. We want to destroy more organs at close range. But look at this. That thing is the size of, I don't know, silver dollar. A little bit bigger than my thumb. 5 yards. I could pick and choose where on that guy I wanted to shoot, and whatever I shot would be absolutely destroyed. Let's try 10 yards. 10 yards, federal flight control headshot. All right, gnarly group. This is the wad going through. We've got a group of, we got a wad going through here with 1 pellet following it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 pellets, headshot, 10 yards. This is the length of my living room, roughly. I could put all rounds in the headshot at a bad guy at 10 yards. 15 yards, can I put them all in the head with federal flight control? You be the judge. All right, 15 yards. 15 yards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a 9 pellet flyer right there on the edge of his scalp. The group was a little bit angled. Had it been straight up and down, would have put them all in his head, but we can't control that. So 15 yards, about the maximum effective distance, even with federal flight control. But I want to show you what flight control will do at 25 yards. Pretty much the maximum effective distance of a 12 gauge shotgun. Federal flight control, 25 yards. So I got a flyer over here. I'm not crazy about that. I'm not even sure. You guys probably have a better idea which ones of those hit. But it appears that all but 1 flyer hit my bad guy at 25 yards. And folks, let me spin you around here. I'm going to set you at the target. 25 yards is a decent distance away for a 12 gauge.
Many unbearable hours later.
I had to run down to my local gun shop, pick up a cool little surprise that was sent to me. I'll be reviewing it here shortly in another video, but for now, before the sun goes down, I wanted to wrap this up by working some slugs real quick. All right, I'm going to set this up where you can see I stuffed a McDonald's bag in there because it's a negative target. It's got a hole in the center for shooting through. All right, let's put some slugs down range on that steel target. We've got a steel silhouette target, 50 yards down range. I got a camera set up right next to it. Okay, 50 yards with a 12 gauge, 1 ounce slug. There's our steel target down range. There it is. Hit with some authority too. Let's move it back to 100 yards. Okay, we're at 100 yards. You can barely see past the nose of my truck the steel target set up down there, but I do have another camera downrange, so I'm gonna give it a try from 100 yards with a standard old 1 ounce slug. We got him! I would not feel undergunned one bit being armed only with a 12 gauge. I would feel very good about defending my home, my family, my truck, wherever I happen to be. Do not fear, you don't need a tactical rifle with all kinds of gizmos on it. You are perfectly well protected with this 12 gauge and a variety of different rounds. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you would do me a favor, reach down here and hit the like button if you liked it. If you didn't like it, who asked you? Share a link to this video with 10,000 of your closest friends. And if you are not already a subscriber, please reach down here and hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell so that you'll get notified whenever we have new videos coming out. I appreciate you guys subbing. I appreciate you watching. I encourage you all to be safe and stay armed if you are legally allowed to do so out there. Until the next video, OG out.